So today we're here again for another episode of Talks, and we're talking today to Monique. Mon's our strategy and marketing lead in the business. Mon's been with us a little while now. Hey Mon, how you going?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Can you, I guess, just kick us off by explaining just 30 seconds of 1-2 minutes. Give us a quick elevator pitch as to what you have done so far in your career. Just a quick top line overview.
Yeah, sure. So I was working at a local radio station while I was studying at university. So I was pretty lucky to get some media experience working at the radio. I learned a lot along the way. After I finished university, I was working full-time for the radio before quitting my job, getting married and going traveling the world.
Yep, that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It lasted almost 3 years. During that time, obviously, to fund traveling for 3 years straight, we had to work along the way. So I was able to make a bit of a passive income through my honeymoon travel blog to kind of extend our trip. And then we moved back to Australia and I got the job at Talk.
Awesome. So I was just thinking back to when you first started at Talk. I think it was really I distinctly remember when we caught up for an interview, one of the feelings I had when we were sort of just talking about digital and what it's good for and what it's not good for was how passionate you were about it. Like it really oozed out of you. Do you think that's still true today? Like, are you still really into it?
So passionate about marketing. I guess doing the travel blog, I was able to upskill along the way and learn a lot of aspects, especially around digital marketing. And that's kind of where my passion grew from there. I was doing some freelance work as well on the side. So that kind of got me into the industry. And yeah, I was just so passionate about it, which obviously came across in my job interview with you guys. I was just really eager to learn all the aspects of digital marketing and get some more industry knowledge, really.
Yeah. It's definitely, I feel like it's the sort of thing where you get bitten by the bug or you don't, and those that get bitten by it, they just get really addicted to it. It can be really addictive. And I guess today, what we want to focus on in this first video is really talking about strategy and planning. And they are definitely two different things, but sort of group them together into this one conversation because they do dovetail quite a lot. Like there's a lot of components to working up a strategy that sort of dictate how you plan a project or a campaign or whatever. I guess the marketing managers who aren't as experienced in digital or business owners or directors or GMs or sales managers or whatever that maybe are watching this, often from what I see, they tend to underestimate the volume of options that they have available digitally, as well as how much work goes into each one of those options when you choose, say, I'm going to do a Facebook ad or I'm going to do an SEO piece or whatever. When you're working on a strategy, so a high level, like a plan for a client, how do you go about it? Like what do you recommend someone do? How do they even start?
I guess you'd start with the lead marketing message. What exactly are you wanting to achieve from the campaign? What is the point of the advertisement? That will essentially determine what strategy we use.
Yep.
So if you, I don't know. So if it's a high involvement product, the strategy would probably be a little bit more drawn out. Perhaps we would do a sales funnel approach with the awareness, consideration and conversion stage. In the awareness stage is a little bit more fluffy, more brand awareness. This is what we do. And then the next stage is the consideration stage. Mm-hmm. So typically in the awareness stage, users perhaps are not aware of your brand.
Yep.
When we would remarket to these users we'll remarket to users from the awareness stage to the consideration stage.
Yep.
And in this stage, they're essentially almost ready to purchase. Perhaps they are ready to purchase there.
Yeah.
They're considering the offer or the lead marketing message that you're conveying. And if users then haven't converted in the consideration stage, then we'll remarket again in the conversion stage. And this is a bit more direct marketing copy, direct response, a lot of call to actions, and just kind of squeezing the bottom of the funnel. You know that these users are warm leads. They're aware of your brand. They're engaged with you, and they should be willing to purchase or convert at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah. So I sort of, when I think about that, planning that initial marketing message and the plan, I sort of think about they're cold. You've never met them before. They're warm. They're sort of reaching around to get their wallet out of their back pocket, but they haven't quite got it out yet. And then a conversion, they've actually got their wallet out, and they've got the credit card out, and they've done the tap and go, and they're walking away with the product. That's sort of like trying to match what you do digitally, like online, to what you would do in a purchase process offline. And in terms of I know you're really passionate about just continuous sort of improvement in terms of results. And I noticed in what you were just explaining, you didn't mention any one channel. So it sounds like for you, what it's all about is what are the business needs first? What's the marketing message? What's the overall funnel? And then it's like, channels come after that, or you
Yeah, typically the channels will come after that. I guess consider the dates and how long it's going to be in market for, whether it's a campaign that's tailored around a specific time of the year.
Yep.
The budget is probably a pretty big consideration before we determine the channels. If we've got a small budget, we're better off sticking to the one channel and really capturing and engaging the audience on that one platform, opposed to spreading our budget really thin to target, a number of users, because obviously ads are limited by performance due to budget constraints. So that can actually hinder your performance, your campaign performance, if your ads all of a sudden stop because you've hit your daily ad spend limit on a certain channel. So yeah, your budget's pretty important. I guess we always look at historical data as well before we even recommend a certain channel. Has this channel worked before? If it has, what sort of targeting were we doing? What sort of assets were we using? What was the ad type? So looking at historical data can really set us up for success when we're planning a new campaign or strategy.
Yeah, cool. And what are so it's like the marketing message, then the funnel and sort of how users are going to move through that funnel, then the channels that support that funnel. And then I guess it would be about the creative that goes on the channels then. Is that sort of the logical next step?
Yeah, exactly. So it would be the types of creative that we have, whether we have done a content production and we've produced content that's specific for a certain campaign, that tends to deliver much better results instead of relying on, content that's perhaps telling a story. It might not be a strong enough marketing message to get, the point across to the users there. So I guess in terms of content, ideally we'd love to produce the content internally. If that's not possible, we can definitely work with whatever assets the client may have available, any videos. We've got a very, very skilled design team who can absolutely work wonders, turning static images into video ads and animated image ads. And yeah, the team are really talented. So the better the assets, obviously the better the performance of the campaign too. If we've got really strong assets, they tend to deliver a really strong result.
Yeah. And so you got creative, and then once it launches, how do you go about the optimization piece? I mean, it's like, how long is a piece of string? Targeting, retargeting, age demos, income demos, interest demos, etc. Do you have any go-to optimization approaches, or is there any specific go-to process that you would use to optimize a campaign. I know some of the SEM guys have got a few tactics, but I'm always interested to learn if anyone's got a little trick up their sleeve.
Well, I guess one thing to keep in mind is that we don't just target one particular audience. So say, for example, we've got a video ad running. We could have 5 different targeting options on that one video. So it's displaying to 5 different audiences. From there, we're able to get learnings on which is the best performing audience. So this could be, you know, geo-targeting or geo-fencing a specific area, and users, perhaps they're traveling through that area. They've got their location services on their device enabled. So you can tell, ding, ding, you've hit that geo-fence location. We're going to serve you with an advertisement. So there are some prerequisites that you know, people will need to take in order to see the ads. Perhaps it's remarketing to users who've previously visited your site. Therefore, they're a warmer lead. Perhaps we wouldn't have to retarget to them at the awareness stage because they're already aware of their brand, or your brand. We could remarket to them in the consideration or conversion stage. I guess having a number of targeting options just enables you to look at the data, really, and then determine, okay, this worked really well, let's up the ad spend here. Or we can see that users between 20 to 35 years old are performing and converting the best. Let's up that ad spend, let's tweak the targeting. I guess continual optimization of campaigns is best. That will definitely get you the best results.
Yeah, always working through more and more and more and more different options. The guys seem to have infinite different ideas when it comes to trying and testing things. And in terms of, I guess, so that's really building out a strategy and then rolling out the campaign or what have you, and then optimizing it. If you sort of put on the other hat and say, well, okay, building a website, or even for a big campaign that might have a lot of moving parts in it, what do you see, like how do you have any of those similar secrets or tricks up your sleeve when it comes to planning? So we talk strategy. Is there any considerations you have when it comes to planning a project?
Yeah, definitely. I guess planning is pretty integral when you're doing any kind of marketing effort, because it sets you up for success, and it also enables you to set the expectations on deadlines. This is the type of content you can expect to receive. These are the deadlines. So sometimes you could want a campaign, I need this live tomorrow. Well, that may not work. We can't just do that overnight. There's obviously a process that goes involved. There's obviously a process involved with planning, and so you need to consider, you know, how long design will need. Do you want a video or an image that's just kind of thrown together, or do we have a really large budget and it's going to be a really, you know, long campaign? That will definitely take time. It's worth investing in that little bit more time in the planning stage, because it's going to set you up for success when the campaign goes to market. We do have some global clients as well. So perhaps there's an internal approval process that when we've finished the campaign, it's run through all of our approval checks, and then it goes to the client. They may need to do their own internal approval. They may need to go to head office. Perhaps they're in another country. So then you have to take into consideration the time difference, the different days of the week. We're sending it on a Friday, so then by the time it actually gets to global, maybe like halfway through the following week. So just keep in consideration how long you need to plan and develop that campaign before it goes live.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting you flag that, because I think a lot of businesses, they think, oh, agencies are really expensive and they're really slow and there's no value and all the rest of it. I feel like the market has sort of gotten to a point where when you look at all that goes into getting a campaign happening, you know, cross channels, cross platforms, all that sort of thing, regardless of how you go about producing that campaign, in-house, freelancers, agencies, combinations, whatever, it's going to either A, take a lot of time, because digital is actually, contrary to what people believe, digital is really, really labor intensive, or it's going to yield a less than stellar result. And I think that's, to your point there, some of those comments you just made around, you need this time allowance or global reviews and all that sort of thing. It can be easy through hastiness of trying to get things done and get things to market. It can be easy to sort of kick that to the side and for clients to be like, oh, don't worry about it, just get something live yesterday. But the reality of that, dollars in the bank account, profit and loss statements, the reality of that is less performance. You said earlier, content, when we produce local content, it produces a much stronger ROI. It's going to cost money to produce that content. It's going to take time. But generally speaking, we've seen like a 30 to 35% improvement in return on investment when we roll out content in a campaign that's locally produced as opposed to standardized content. So why wouldn't you put the extra time and effort in if you want to get that sort of rainmaker result? I mean, there are instances where you can get things out really fast, but do you generally agree with that? Or do you see situations where, no, you've got to get things out and speed to market is more important than full integration like that?
Oh, it really depends. I would say full integration in all marketing aspects, whether it's organic socials, your paid campaign, and EDM automation that you're doing internally. Having the time to plan will set you up for success. In saying that, you can do things, there are certain ad types that could be turned around a lot quicker, but that would be more of like a ad hoc, spot campaign kind of thing. In terms of like an actual like key strategy or key marketing message, it definitely is worth taking the time to do it properly, especially if that campaign has a bit of longevity to it as well. You want to set yourself up for success at the start rather than quickly, let's get to market. Oh, that's not working. And then it's more of like that rigid model of like, fixing and continually fixing something because you rushed it to market rather than taking a step back. Okay, if it goes a day late to market than you originally anticipated, that's probably better if you're going to have the assets and it's going to set you up for success with that campaign than just being like, we need something, let's get it done. We can do that too, obviously, but being so passionate about marketing, you want to have the time to actually do the absolute best you can and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward from the get-go rather than having to chase your tail because you've rushed to get something in market.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I agree. There's reasons for both, but ideally, yeah. And in terms of just for people who are trying to execute campaigns themselves as opposed to working with an agency, what do you have any advice for like channels, so EDMs, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, AdWords, etc.? Do you have any advice for what channels they should start with, or is it more case-by-case basis? Or
I'd say it's more on a case-by-case basis. It really depends on who your target audience is. So if you're targeting professionals, LinkedIn is a great platform. If you're targeting, people who are more inclined to be watching videos, then you could do a bit of Facebook, a bit of YouTube. Perhaps the people your target audience is more auditory, you could go down the Spotify ad platform. Typically, most users are on Facebook, so that's a pretty safe bet. So if you're quite unsure of the platform that you should take when executing a campaign, I just start with Facebook initially. I don't know many people who don't have Facebook. So at least you've got a large audience to target. And then, just really defining who your audience is and enabling the ads to be targeted towards them, whether it's, through geo-target, interest targeting, cookies targeting if you visited a certain website. Yeah,
cool. That's cool. Yeah, I agree with you. Facebook used to be just brand awareness and it will always be AdWords for conversion, but I feel like recently it's become a bit more
it's more than that.
More than that. You can really build full funnels on there now pretty aggressively. Yeah.
And a lot of users are actually using Facebook as their information channel as well.
Yeah.
There's a number of articles that are shared within Facebook. If you're absorbing your content through Facebook, then your ads are actually being shown on the articles that users are reading there. And with COVID-19 pandemic happening around the world, more and more people are needing information and are consuming more online than ever before. So Facebook is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, cool. That's a pretty good wrap. I reckon that's a pretty good sort of all-round message. Just before we finish, do you have any words of wisdom or any parting advice for marketers or business owners who are sort of working out what to do now? You know, there's been this big downturn in the economy and everyone's sort of trying to chart a bit of a course forward. Do you have any parting messages?
Well, I think there's a lot of actual, like, even though the pandemic is happening around the world and there's a lot of struggle with businesses, there's actually still a lot of opportunity in market. So I would say keep going with it, keep sticking with what you believe in, and putting your best foot forward. There's still opportunity out there, and just take into consideration planning and strategy before you actually execute the campaign, because that can set you up for success.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Mon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.